Hello, very good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Candy Talk here on Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Evans Okinyi, and I'm glad to bring you up to date with comprehensive analysis of all that is taking place in this country and across our borders, only on Kenya's most comprehensive political and public governance analysis show. Definitely, I'm talking about the Candy Talk. Well, I'm here with Wakili Willis Otieno. Wakili, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
It has been such a busy weekend. And so much is happening here. I think the last time before we had our last conversation, the deputy president had not been impeached yet.
The motion of impeachment had not been passed.
Yes.
Now he stands not yet impeached, but there is a resolution for him to be impeached.
Yes.
And the instruments of impeachment are before the Senate. So he waits his day to the destiny before the Senate this week on Thursday. And looking at the posturing, those senators, majority of them will take instructions from their political kings. Gachagua does not stand a chance with those senators. Not because he has done anything wrong, but because political expediency is that the bell tolls for Gachagua. To whom the bell tolls. The bell tolls for Rigathi Gachagua, and he must be chopped on his head. He has no salvation in National Assembly and in the Senate.
Now let us look at some of these things, the events that followed thereafter after the National Assembly passed a resolution to have him impeached. There we are. We are moving to the Senate. One, there are certain legal headwinds here that I want us to get clear of, because one, in the first place, is said that he has, of course, that is the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, that he's got a lot of faith in the judiciary, and particularly banking on the judiciary to actually save him. One, tell me about this. There are a number of cases that have been filed at the court here to perhaps try and prevent the Senate from going on with the proceedings. In the first place, how does that help him in this particular
You know, Gachagua, unfortunately for him, his past has caught up with him.
Yes.
When Ruto used to gas him up, he will fire shots at everybody, not knowing that he will need those bridges sometimes in the future. Gachagua went public to accuse the judiciary of being against the government. And he accused and singled out a judge, Justice Maina, for being a corrupt judge, and in a way insinuating that she was not presiding over court cases before fairly. Now the same Gachagua has run back to the judiciary to save him. That time it was politically expedient to besmirch the character of judges and the judiciary. Today, his own survival, he's pegged it on the same courts that he was disparaging. But to each their own. Whereas Gachagua may have a strong legal case, I do not see, in my view, where I sit, the courts interfering with what is largely a political process. Because look at it. The National Assembly, when they were faced with the issue of impeaching Gachagua, they had 11 grounds. But look at the substance of the statements that were being made on the floor of the National Assembly in regard to why Gachagua should be impeached. Betty Maina says that Gachagua didn't give her marriage 6 months to last. That was the basis upon which she was voting to impeach Gachagua. That was not one of the grounds. Look at Karoli was speaking loudly about Gachagua disrespecting them when they visited the late General Ogola. That was not one of the grounds. Look at Sholei speaking on the floor of the National Assembly, saying that Rigathi Gachagua was attending a forum where people were shouting, Ruto must go. That was not one of the grounds. In fact, she said that was an act of treason. Treason was not one of the grounds. So in other words, the National Assembly, in passing the motion, was relying on extraneous facts. They did not debate the motion on its merits to adduce evidence to support the grounds upon which Gachagua was to be impeached. But there they were, cheering and relying on extraneous facts to pass that impeachment. So if he was to go to court ordinarily, he will have a strong case in which he can say, the reasons I was impeached were not disclosed to me. I didn't have an opportunity to respond to the allegations. Because if Betty Maina was voting on the basis that Gachagua gave her marriage only 6 months, Gachagua's voice on that allegation was not heard. He didn't respond to that allegation. So there was no notice to him on why he should be impeached. And many others. Kimani Chungwa was saying he has a black hat. Was having a black hat one of the grounds for impeachment?
Not really.
It was not. But those are the reasons why
But
Gachagua...
nonetheless, there were reasons that were already tabled.
Yes,
those
but
grounds.
what I'm saying is, when you talk about fair hearing, you notify somebody of the allegations against him or her.
Okay.
And you allow him to respond to each and every of those allegations. But if you are going to make your decision based on what is not on the grounds, then you've prejudiced his right to a fair hearing.
Okay. So why does he want the Senate stopped from conducting their legal mandate here?
Of course, what Gachagua is trying to do is now clutching at straws. He's a drowning man. A drowning man will clutch on anything. Will clutch on straws, thinking that we're going to save him. It will not. So he hopes that by going to court, he can get an order to stop the Senate from proceeding with the impeachment motion. I don't see courts, in my view, interfering with parliamentary proceedings when they are still going on, unless the matter was in court before those proceedings.
Okay.
In this particular case, the matters that are before the Senate and the proceedings in court, the proceedings came as the process was going on. And the court's duty is normally to ascertain if the outcome of a parliamentary proceeding adhered to the law. That's where the right to fair administrative action comes in. So it will be a tall order for him to get an order stopping the Senate from proceeding. His recourse will be to challenge the outcome of that court proceeding.
Okay.
That is when the court will exercise its judicial mind to determine if that decision of the Senate accorded to the Constitution and, more importantly, the right to fair administrative action. To try to stop it before, tall order, but a man must try. A man must try. A drowning man will clutch onto straws, thinking it will save him.
Okay.
The bell tolls for Gachagua, to whom the bell tolls.
The deputy president here is not a drowning man, but anyway, those are your words. Let's get to the numbers within the Senate. Of course, right now we are sure that the hearing will be based on a plenary kind of session. But then the numbers here speak. There has been this confusion on whether all the 67 senators are supposed to be voting or only the 47 from each county.
In the deal, it should have been the 47 counties, should have been county delegations. But a reading of Article 150 of the Constitution does not shed light. It simply says by the senators. So the presumption is that all 67 senators will be voting.
Okay.
And if that be the case, then the movers of the motion must marshal support of 45 senators for it to pass. If they don't get the threshold, then it will be a tall order. At that point now, Gachagua will survive. But if 45 senators vote in support, then we shall sing to Gachagua, Luere, Luere, Gachagua, Luere.
So meaning Gachagua has to get only 23 senators
23 senators
to vote no.
To vote no. And I don't know why he's going to get the 20.
If you look at the arithmetic arrangement,
if you look at the composition of the Senate, between William Ruto and Raila Odinga, they control almost, at bare minimum, 55 senators. Where will Gachagua get his support? Where will his help come from?
Why are you bringing Raila Odinga into this?
But ODM has been voting for the National Assembly. Okay. Nobody prosecuted the impeachment louder than ODM. And Raila is the de jure and de facto party leader of ODM. So if ODM does not take an anti-Gachagua and a pro-Gachagua position in the Senate, you'll expect their senators to equal. But also for Raila Odinga, why would you think he will save Gachagua?
And that is actually what I'm wondering.
No, he will not. Why would he? It's actually foolery to expect Raila to marshal his troops to save Gachagua. That makes sense. Because number one, how does he benefit? What does it benefit him? If you look at Gachagua's posturing before, he was very much anti-Raila Odinga and his politics. And even if today they say political interests have changed, of what value is Gachagua to Raila? What's the political value in Gachagua? That he should save him?
Okay.
He will not. He's not his political partner. They have no political path that they are going to work together. So Raila is not going to lift a finger for Gachagua. In fact, ODM will remove the access, the shocker, to cut off Gachagua's head in the Senate. They have no political interest to save him. If we go into this thing politically, because this is a political thing. I said, in as much as we discuss the legality in the process, but it's largely a political exercise.
Okay.
So what is the need for ODM to save Gachagua? How do they benefit politically? They don't. Is it for the love of Gachagua? They don't love him. There's no love lost between ODM and Gachagua.
Okay.
So don't expect ODM to shed a tear for Gachagua. They will not. In fact, they will be the ones collecting firewood to burn him, if that were the case. So they will not save him. And Raila will not save Gachagua, regardless of what Gachagua does. There is no political value in Gachagua to Raila Odinga.
Well, this is the defining week that we are in here, and certain people believe that we may have a new deputy president by Friday, should the Senate uphold the impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. But then let us have this, because in an attempt to perhaps try to derail this process, we've seen him gone to court, therefore, and of course we believe that the Senate will actually go ahead and conduct their mandate. Should he be impeached? Of course, I know that the president has like 14 days to appoint a new person. So does it mean that Gachagua may have some sort of time to go to court and again challenge maybe the verdict of the Senate should he be impeached? Yeah. And if that works, how long does it? Let's look at the time frames and whether it's possible that a new person would come in.
You see, if Gachagua were to be impeached, the president has 14 days to nominate a deputy.
From the time of impeachment.
And Parliament has to pass that nominee within 60 days. So even if Gachagua was to go to court, rest assured that that case must be had within those time frames, within 60 days. It has to be concluded. Because otherwise there will be a constitutional crisis. Because if 60 days lapses before the issue is determined and the courts were to later on find that Gachagua was properly impeached, then the Ruto will have lost an opportunity to make a new nomination. So, and Parliament will not have jurisdiction to vote for a replacement after the 60 days have lapsed. So any case that he files must be resolved and determined within 60 days. Because within those 60 days, there should be a nomination, there should be a parliamentary process that appoints a new one. Anything done outside the 60 days will be illegal. It will be unconstitutional. So Ruto will have to survive there without a deputy president.
Should his impeachment be upheld by the Senate? Is there any order that could perhaps bar the president from appointing a new person?
I mean, that is left to the discretion of a court to bar the nomination of a person. But why would you bar the nomination of a person? If you don't stay there, you'll have to look for the stay of the decision of the Senate. Once that stay is issued, then you can bar. But if you don't stay the decision of the Senate, you cannot get an order that stops the president from nominating somebody. Because it is a constitutional imperative upon him to make a nomination within 14 days, which he must do. So if you buy him, remember you must finish that case within the 14 days. Because anything outside the 14 days, he does not have the legal mandate to nominate any other person if the 14 days have lapsed.
So if by Thursday this week Rigathi Gachagua is impeached, okay, or rather his impeachment is upheld by the Senate, then on Friday the president can just go ahead and nominate another person.
He can nominate somebody.
Let us look
even
at
that same night. He can forward a name to the Speaker of the National Assembly and Senate the same night, on Thursday night, if Gachagua is impeached. Then from that day of forwarding the names, the Parliament has 60 days to vote on that name, accept or reject.
And that voting can also, the one for the 60 days for Parliament as well begins on the very day?
On the day when the President submits a name.
Okay. So we can also expect our Parliament to meet on Friday. Because I understand there are certain members of Parliament who are arguing that these things could actually go very fast, and before we know it, everything is set and we have a new deputy president, and there we find ourselves in some sort of a legal battle here.
Of course. And even if a new deputy president is nominated, nothing stops the court from nullifying that appointment.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that if the courts have a seized of the matter and before they conclude a new person is nominated, the courts can as well nullify the nomination and find that the impeachment was illegal, null and void. They can declare null and void and even declare the person who is holding the office, if it's a new person has been appointed, to vacate. Yeah.
Talk to me about this. We've got these requirements, of course, for the nominations of, the deputy president, the president, governors, and all that manner of, all those requirements by the parliament that you need to be cleared by certain sections or rather certain bodies in this country, maybe talk of DCI and all that. There is this requirement that the IBC should actually normally clears the presidential and deputy presidential candidates here. In the absence of IBC, is it a requirement right now that anybody who would be nominated by the president here has to get clearance from the IBC?
You know, in the case of Anne Kananu and Sonko, that issue was discussed to an extent, and in which when Sonko sought to withdraw the nomination of Anne Kananu as his deputy, the matter went to court, and the court did find that once Sonko submitted the name to the returning officer being the county returning officer for Nairobi, that was the IBC, and the returning officer had certified that she met the qualifications, there was no avenue for Sonko to recall that name. And that is why Anne Kananu proceeded to become the governor of Nairobi, because she was now deemed to be the deputy governor. The assembly proceeded to consider a nomination and passed her. Then she became the acting governor. Sonko was out. So also, in this particular instance, some people will want to read the constitution that to the extent that it is silent, it doesn't prescribe the role of the IBC. But in terms of determining eligibility, it's a question of eligibility. The work of parliament is to approve, not to determine the question of eligibility. On the question of eligibility of a person to be a deputy president, is a function of IBC and the returning officer for that particular election. The returning officer for presidential elections was the IBC chairperson. He is not in office. So if you were to use the Anne Kananu judgment, then you can make a strong case that whoever Ruto will nominate, he must submit that name to IBC, returning officer for presidential elections, for purposes of determining the eligibility of the person to be appointed. Now that will be a legal quagmire. Are we going to ignore that court order on the Anne Kananu case and proceed to have the new nominee assume office, pass by parliament and assume office? But in Kenya today, the law does not seem to be clear as lawyers we know it. You'll hear already, you can see some regime apologists saying that there is no role of IEBC in the nomination, that the matter should just go straight to the parliament and parliament to pass. But a clear reading, parliament has no duty to determine the eligibility question of a person, whether they qualify to hold an office.
Okay.
If it's an elected office, the eligibility question vests on the IEBC and the returning officer for that particular election. So somebody can question and challenge the appointment of the new person if the returning officer for presidential elections is not there to determine if the person is eligible to hold the office or not. Otherwise, if we say that that question is not material, then nothing will stop William Ruto from nominating a foreigner to become the deputy. If he took a foreigner, IBC will assess the eligibility of that person and say, no, you're not a Kenyan citizen, you don't qualify. If he took a person without a university degree, IBC will look at the eligibility question of that person and say, you're not qualified. That is not the function of parliament.
But in this case, parliament is doing the vetting.
No, parliament is not doing the vetting in terms of a new nominee. Parliament is supposed to approve, not to assess the eligibility.
Okay.
Parliament is looking at we agree or we don't agree. There is the eligibility question. Are you eligible? Because William Ruto nominates. When he nominates a name, IBC decides, is the person eligible to be a deputy president?
Okay.
Then once IBC certifies the person is eligible, you take the name to Parliament. Then Parliament votes on whether they approve the nomination, not whether the person is eligible. The vote in Parliament is not a vote on the eligibility question. It's a vote on whether this person has the confidence of the House, the people's representative, so to speak, to hold that office.
Before approving, that kind of process that the appointee and undergoes actually when he appears before the Parliament and all that, before this person is finally approved, isn't that what we call vetting, or what is it?
No, so I'm telling you, you are looking at two different things. Parliament will not be vetting the person.
Okay.
Parliament will be voting to approve.
Okay, voting to approve.
When you talk about qualification, eligibility is a question of qualification.
Okay.
Whether you are qualified is not the work of Parliament. The person who goes to Parliament should be somebody who is already eligible. And the certifying officer for eligibility is IEBC returning officer, not Parliament.
So meaning we cannot treat this case as the ones for the CSS and all that?
No.
Okay.
Because you see, for CSS, they are sent to Parliament for vetting. The Deputy President is not being sent to Parliament for vetting.
Okay.
In fact, he does not even need to appear before Parliament. He does not need to appear to answer any questions. It is Parliament to receive the name and exercise a vote.
Okay.
Because they are not doing any vetting of the nominee.
So the law here, okay, I need to, if at all we are supposed to consider the IEBC factor here, then it would mean that the president nominates the person, sends the name to IEBC for eligibility test, and then after that forwards the name to Parliament.
Yes, exactly.
Well, so far so bad, so to say, because the commission is not operational. But let's wait and see. Maybe a new one would be formed soon enough.
Within 2 days.
Within 2 days. But ladies and gentlemen, that is perhaps the price that we have to pay for some of the decisions that we make as a country. And of course, that calls on us and the government to make sure that the IEBC is actually reconstituted as soon as possible, so that things can get going in this particular country. Thank you for tuning into our conversation here with Wakili Willis Otieno. I believe all your legal questions that you had regarding the kind of impeachment process that we are going through right now with the Deputy President have been answered. Stay tuned to some of our programs that will be coming up next, and thank you for watching. My name is Evan Sokinyi. Till we have this conversation again, have yourself a lovely day.